Hello everybody, it's Mrs. Summerlin, and I've decided to start a series of YouTube videos to help you with your research paper. We're going to begin with looking at the rubric because honestly that's where we should begin. So if you look here, we're going to start with content and organization. The very first thing you need is an engaging thesis. I strongly recommend that you make your thesis debatable and argumentative because honestly an argumentative essay is a little easier to write and will give you some position to argue. We all like to argue. This is something you can argue. So I would encourage you to go with a debatable thesis. Make this an argument. Now, if you're looking there and you say, but Ms. Summerlin, it says I can have an analytical thesis. Yes, you can. Do you know what that is? If you don't, you shouldn't use it. Go with the persuasive essay. Make sure that this is not a how-to paper or a history of paper. I have seen a lot of papers that are like how to become a lawyer or the history of the police force. These are not capstone level papers and they will not pass. You need to make this a persuasive paper. You need to make this an argument. Now, moving on to the next part, inclusion of supporting details and specific quotations. Many of you are going to use your research. Please use your research. It's a research paper. You're going to have your supporting details, your quotations. You know those things. You know about using evidence. Where a lot of people fail here is they do not explain their evidence. You can't just drop a quote and leave. You have to explain your evidence. So if you have a quote about baby ducklings needing a safe path to a pond, quote, baby ducklings get caught in storm drains, end quote. You have to develop that. If they're caught in storm drains, this means that they cannot get to their destination. If they're trapped in a storm drain, this means that a cat might get them or a dog would eat them, and we will have less baby ducklings in the world. You need to explain your evidence. Go back real fast to the thesis here. If you want a good example of a persuasive thesis, here is one for you. Nurses. Nurses should not work 12-hour shifts because it increases accidents and career burnout. There, you have something to argue. You're going to talk to me about why they shouldn't have to work 12-hour shifts because it's going to increase the amount of accidents that they have with patients, with themselves, and then you're going to talk about how having them work so many 12-hour shifts makes them not want to be nurses anymore. This is an argumentative thesis because somebody else can come along and say, no, that's not true. That's not why we have career burnout. We have career burnout because it's an overly emotional job. Automatic argument. If you have an argument, you have a thesis. All right, back here. Fully developed and unified paragraphs. This means organized. Is it organized? Does it make sense? Does it flow in a logical order? Do you have transitions from one point to another? Do you have a consistent logical focus? So if you're writing a paper about baby ducklings, this means that you're not going to wander off and start talking about squirrels or endangered birds of prey. You're talking about baby ducklings and what we can do to help baby ducklings. You stay focused and on task. What I suggest is what I refer to as the check yourself before you wreck yourself method. All right, copyright pending. Basically what I do is I write a paragraph of my paper and I stop. Then I look back at my thesis. Does my paragraph go with my thesis? Yes, good. Then I go to the next one because it's too easy to go off topic if you just sit and write and write and write and write and write and write. Stop and check yourself before you wreck yourself. Then you move on to your conclusion here. Please do not just repeat your introduction. Do not repeat intro. My suggestion would to be conclude with a reference to your hook. So if you begin your essay with a story about a poor little baby duck being trapped in a sewer drain and that gets eaten by a cat, in the very end, you want to come back to that story and say something like, well, if we had safer paths for our baby ducklings, less of them would suffer the fate of poor Gilbert the baby duckling. You bring it full circle, bring it all back around. Now, the strength and complexity of topic. Sometimes people don't really know what that means. What I tell my kids is that your topic is adult level, it's college level. It isn't something silly. It isn't something that you treat flippantly. You treat it in a serious and important manner. You make it sound legit and important. This includes anything from talking about cancer therapy to doing hair. It's important. These things are all important. You have to sell it with significance and with intensity. If you treat it like it's a joke, your teacher's going to think it's a joke. If it's important to you, I don't care if it's doing nails or if it is cardiothoracic surgery. If it is important to you, you have to make it sound important. Now, errors and grammatical problems and mechanical errors. These include fragments in few sentences. I do not have enough time to talk to you about fragments in few sentences. I really just don't. I'll try to make another video a little bit later because I've already seen that be a huge problem. Basically, please check to make sure that your sentences has a subject and a verb. Start there and we'll go on for the rest. The other problem that I am seeing a lot of is first and second person pronouns. People are struggling with that. So here is an example of how to fix the first and second person pronouns and how tricky they can be. So, the military is important for our country's protection. Miss Summerlin, where is the first person pronoun? Well, it's right here. But it's our country. I don't care. It's still a first person pronoun. A way to fix that is just to cross it out and write the country. These are things you can get rid of. Just be very aware that you're doing it. Don't say our nation or our future. Say the nation, the future. Now let's go to documentation here. You want your format to be correct, so please make sure that you have an error-free references page, not a works cited page. Works cited is MLA. We are doing APA, so you need a references page. You want correct in-text citations, correct paraphrasing, and direct quotations. How do you do that? Well, let's start with paraphrasing. So here's how you paraphrase. Many ducklings struggle to climb curbs, so creating safe paths is crucial. Jones, 2013. You have an author, you have a year. Then you realize the period is on the outside of the citation because the citation is part of this sentence. There are no quotation marks in here because I'm not quoting him, I am paraphrasing him. Yes, you must cite when you are paraphrasing someone else. When you paraphrase, all you need is the author and the year. When you use direct quotations, however, you need more information. So you can do it like this. All right, let me move that up just a little bit. All right, quoted citation A. Many ducklings, quote, cannot cross storm grates or curbs, end quote, and require safer paths. Jones, 2013, page 4. So when you do a direct quote, when you have your quotation marks, you need the author, the year, and the page that it occurred on. Now, if it does not have a page, you put NP for no page. If it does not have a year, you put ND for no date. If you have something that has no date and no page, please reevaluate your source to make sure it's a good one, because those are flags of danger. Now, there's another way you can do this. You can do it like this. Quoted citation B. According to Jones, 2013, many ducklings, quote, cannot cross storm grates or curbs, end quote, and require safer paths. Page 4. I am still including the citation in the sentence by putting the period behind it. My quotes are in the middle. I have my author, I have my year. So when you have a quoted citation, you must have author, year, page number. Author, year, page number. It's the three things you must have for a quote. Paraphrasing requires 2, quotes requires 3. Make sure you're doing that. All right, moving on. The next thing is that you get to style. Style, you need to sound like you are a high school senior writing a paper. I'm not expecting you to sound like anything other than a high school senior writing a paper. You should be able to write well and clearly. If I am confused about your paper, if I put a little question mark out to the side, that means you have failed in the style category. It is unclear to me. Now, a lot of things are going on here. Varied sentence structure. Don't just have noun, verb, noun, verb, noun, verb. Throw in some prepositional phrases like, instead of just saying, John goes to the store, John buys tomatoes. Say things like, while at the store, John bought tomatoes, so that it's a little bit more interesting to read. Make sure you're using good vocabulary. It's not about being fancy, it's about being accurate. I don't care about your 25-cent words if they're not accurate. Use good words, not fancy words. Limited use of unnecessary passive voice. Students see that and they're like, I don't know what passive voice is. Here, passive voice is the over-reliance on to-be verbs like is that creates an unclear action. So arts education will be beneficial to students. That's clear, you see where it's going, but you can make this sentence much more effective by using an action verb. So action verbs. To the rescue, arts education benefits students. Arts education benefits students. It's just a stronger statement. It's shorter, yes, but it's stronger. And you want your writing to convey confidence and strength. You don't want will be, would be, might be. That's weak. Passive voice is weak. Active voice is strong. So try to use action verbs whenever possible. Avoid redundance. Don't just keep repeating yourself. Don't keep saying the same things over and over and over again. If you're talking about the police and you say police, 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 throw in another word like law enforcement. Just switch it up a little bit so it's not constantly the same thing over and over. Ambiguous language. Don't use phrases that aren't clear. Always hit straight to the point. Don't dance around a subject with your language. And then avoid wordiness. If you can say arts education benefits students, this is much less wordy. It's straight to the point. Your capstone research paper is not meant for you to just ramble on and on and on about. It needs to be clear. And I know you're looking at 5 pages and you think that you just need to say every word that exists so you can get to your 5 pages. But if you have a good idea and a good topic and a good thesis and good research, you can get to 5 pages without talking in circles. All right. Now, if you have any questions, I hope that I've answered them. And if I haven't, then send me an email and I'll make my next video about that question. Have a nice day.